RoseAda, thank you so much for being here today. I'm actually really excited to have you on because we've had a lot of folks on that are experts in mindset, experts in getting the goals, overcoming self sabotage. I've noticed that I have not had a ton of guests on yet who are speaking into the physical health, the physical well being side of things. And you and I both know that that is a big part of our mindsets as well. One feeds into the other. I would love to just kick it over to you, get this party started today. How important is nutrition and being mindful of what we put in our bodies for how we feel throughout the day?
First, Stu, thank you so much for having me on. I'm thankful to be here. I'm always in gratitude for those who just choose to have a conversation with me about that because that speaks to the mindfulness that you want for yourself and what you want for your audience. And I know that we're all on a quest for that. So, and I'm always happy to share. It's my passion. So, thank you so much for allowing me to be here. So, for me, mindfulness really starts with, and you spoke to goals. And I love that because, like I always tell my clients, like I'm always telling folks, we should always have a goal. There should always, always, always be a goal. And that goal gets to be clear. That goal gets to align with our goals, with our why. So, in true rabbit form fashion, like let's start with what's your why? Like, why is this important to you to have this goal? Right. So, when we're talking about nutrition specifically, I know too that's such a there's so many schools of thought, ways of doing things, methods, prescribed ways when it comes to nutrition. And
Hmm.
so it feels like we should know. But then with all of the information that's out there, a lot of it misinformation, it can
Hmm.
lead to analysis paralysis, decision fatigue, things of that nature. And so what I like to go by is keeping it as simple as possible. We don't have to overcomplicate it, especially with everything that many of us have going on. I know keeping it simple, as in what makes you feel good. Tap
Hmm.
into how do you feel when you eat this versus how do you feel when you eat that?
Yeah.
If you are looking to, again, what is your goal? Is your goal to focus more? Okay. If your goal is to have more energy, all right. So let's look at the certain types of foods that maybe support that or don't. So maybe we're missing protein. Maybe we need more fiber. Maybe we need less refined carbohydrates. Again, it depends on your goals. And it's not about good or bad foods, it's about what supports you. I
Yeah.
think about good and bad. I'm not one to label foods
Hmm.
like that because when we're labeling foods good or bad, I've come to believe in my understanding that we're actually kind of labeling ourselves or judging ourselves. And
Interesting.
that can put us in a space where if we're judging the choices that we're making, then that can spiral us or our food choices become merit based or rewards based,
Okay.
which can cause a bit of a conflict when it comes to certain seasons and times in our lives. So rather than good or bad, does it support my goals?
Hmm.
It's okay if let's see, you lift heavy. So there's a leg day where you need a lot of energy to be replaced after doing a strenuous workout. White rice is a good choice because it's going
Right.
to put some stores back quickly, right? As opposed to if you have if maybe you're not doing that type of exercise or movement and maybe you have a sedentary job where it's like maybe white rice isn't the best choice because it's going to make you more sluggish, so it's
Sure.
about how it's going to support you overall. How do you want to feel? What's the objective? I think it's important to get clear on that first.
Yeah. Oh man, there is so much I want to drill down on with what you just shared. So maybe to just chunk it down and
Okay.
take it a step at a time.
Hmm.
Really interesting what you said about calling foods good or bad and how we actually internalize that with ourselves. And just to use a personal example, I
Mhm.
love Oreos. I will
Mm. Who
absolutely
doesn't? Oh my gosh.
I will
What?
absolutely destroy a bag of Oreos by myself if left
Mhm.
unchecked, right? I know that there is nothing naturally occurring on this earth that is inside an Oreo. I know I'm actually going to feel pretty awful after I eat Oreos.
Mhm.
And yet,
Yes.
I'm hearing you say that I probably shouldn't be calling them bad, even though I know
Correct.
that they're not good for me. So what's can you elaborate on that a bit more?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'll give an example of when a client comes to me and or a person comes to me and they would like me to support them, whether they become a client or they say, okay, thank you for that tidbit. And okay, I think I can work some things out. I'm always willing to give that information, that perspective. So one of the things that I let folks know is I understand I'm sympathetic to what food means to us. Food is fuel, yes, and food is tied to culture. Food is tied to memories. Food is tied to traditions. Food is tied to everything that we do. It's okay, we're going to have a meeting. Okay, who's bringing the food? What are we going to order? We study with food, we mourn with food, we celebrate with food. All of those
Yeah.
things. And so it would be I think it would be it's misguided for us to compartmentalize what food if it's just this hard black and white, yes to this, no to that. What's
Mhm.
happening in real time? Again, how does it support the overarching goal? Now listen, Oreos can't and shouldn't be because it doesn't it's not there's certain nutrients that we need. It can't be breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack. It can't be that maybe they should not be. I'll make that. I will offer that it shouldn't be something
Yeah.
that we take in every day, right? I will say that when my son comes home from school and he had a really fun day or he got an award or he got all A's on, on the marking period and he loves Oreos and there are some in the house. And typically, like literally, like true story, they're Oreos upstairs right now. Okay.
Mhm.
And he I've not touched them. I'm like they're not serving me right now. I don't have the desire to go get them, anything like that. If he were to say, "Mom, I'm really excited about the week that I had and I want to celebrate with Oreos and a glass of almond milk. Will you have a couple with me?" I'm not going to refuse him because I am being strict with my regiment or anything like that. I know that it's not going to derail me because I've been consistent with my supportive nutrition habits. And so I get to say, you know what, I'm going to share this precious moment with you. He's 9 years old. These are things that he's going to take with him and feel like this is a part of a core memory that I have with my mom where we sat at the table and talked about how awesome a week I had over Oreos.
Mhm.
It means it's something, it means something past the Oreos.
Yeah.
And so when I talk to a client about the choices that they're making, and when I talk to about to my I spoke with my wellness transformation members. I have a cohort, and we talked about cravings last night. Actually, we talked about what are we when we're looking at a choice, what do we really need right now? And if you can say, okay, I'm hungry, and so I need to satisfy my hunger, what do I need to reach for? Maybe it's something that is going to be more supportive. So it's going to be a full meal, it's going to be protein, it's going to be a whole grain, it's going to be a green vegetable. And then after I've done with that, if I still want the Oreos, then I go get an appropriate portion,
Sure.
right? So, and then chances are, because you feel nourished, that may not be something that you want to reach for.
Mhm.
So you get to make those decisions one decision at a time.
Got
I
it.
think that's something that has been that gets to be something that supports us. Yes. And
Y
not this all or none.
Sure. So what I'm hearing you say is it isn't about assigning good or bad. It isn't about assigning judgment to a particular food or a treat or anything like
Yes.
that. It's
Yes.
more about being intentional with our consumption.
Yes.
And and I would also say I feel like I'm hearing you say having the discipline to get back on
Yes.
track in terms of what's serving us.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. When you are clear, again, back to that goals mindset, when you are clear with what it is you need and why, then you're not, and it becomes more of an intrinsic view and way of thinking as opposed to, well, I got to the office and they had the donuts. So what was I to do? This happened to me, this extrinsic thing, as opposed to, I brought food with me or I made the choice to start my day with something that's more supportive. Then you can make a more sober decision about why you're choosing what you're choosing, as opposed to being, again, just led every which way. And then now you're feeling badly about the choice that you made. We can avoid that if we
Yeah.
decide to employ that accountability with ourselves.
So I want to ask you this though to follow up. So
Okay.
this is a trap I know a lot of people fall into where, like you said, somebody brings in the donuts to the office or somebody caters a meal or during the holidays, oh my
Yes.
gosh, Auntie so and so just made my favorite pie that I only get to
Yes.
have once a year.
Mhm.
And there's just so much I feel like peer pressure to consume the things that we know aren't going to serve us. Alcohol in
Yes.
particular, I would imagine
Yes.
for
Uh-huh.
most people. What are your thoughts on that? On that whole peer pressure? How can people stay true to themselves,
Yes.
choose it without maybe alienating others?
Yes. Yes. No, that's really good. And that's real. I love this conversation so much because this echoes the things that I talk about all the time and the things that I share. I was actually speaking to I teach a strength training class, and
Mhm.
a lot of times with my strength training class, it's called Lift, and that's part of my brand, the acronym for lifestyle fitness training. So the philosophy is that we're training mind and body to be fit for the lives we want to live, not the lives we used to live pre parenthood, pre-pandemic, pre-college, pre any of that. What's going on now? How do we get to show
Mhm.
up now? And so I talked to my class participants about this. It's not just coming in and throwing around weights and the workout of the day. And what are you getting out of this? And so the theme for this month has been mindfulness because we're stepping into the holiday season and you're going to come up against a lot of resistance.
Mhm.
How will you manage the resistance? And this is very much, again, I parallel to the class because you're going to be coming up against a lot of resistance in this class. How are you going to manage that? Will you be mindful of your form? Will you be
Mhm.
mindful of what you can handle? Will you be mindful of staying in the moment and thinking through what it is that you're doing? Same goes for stepping into these scenarios. One of the things, I had a client one time who really struggled with that, where I would we kind of go over her food diaries together, and I would see everything really, she's doing really well until maybe book club on Thursday night. And book club is when she would get together with other ladies and it's kind of potluck style. So,
Mhm.
somebody brings this and that, and chances are it's something that is completely out of alignment with what she's been doing. And she would struggle with that because really and truly, and again, this is so real, she would indulge because she didn't want to have to feel like she had explained that she was doing something different.
Mhm.
And one of the things that we were able to help her work through is the promise that she made to herself, the commitment that she made to herself. See, that's where accountability comes in. There can be no accountability without a commitment.
Ooh, ooh, say that again.
There can be no accountability without a commitment.
Yes.
And so she gets to remind herself, what did I commit myself to when no one was around? What promise did I make to myself based on the life that I want to live for the duration, not temporarily, not until I lose X amount of pounds, not until my birthday, not until the cruise? How do I want to live life?
Mhm.
And when you are able to employ accountability because of the commitment that you made to yourself, then you can prepare yourself for these scenarios. And then you get to set and enforce the boundaries with yourself first. Here's the thing: we think that people think more about our situation than they actually do. Really, it's that spotlight effect. You think that everybody is concerned with what you're choosing and how you're choosing
Yeah,
it.
no
And
one
that could
cares.
not be, I don't, no one cares. No one cares. So, what you get to do is say, you know what, I'm showing up for me. And here's the thing about boundaries, because we'll say, you know what, I made a promise to myself and then I went to this place and they gave it to me anyway, even though I told them I wasn't going to eat this way. People in our lives do not respect our boundaries until they see us respecting our boundaries.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
even if, now I know all that sounds, and it's true, and it works, and I know all that, listeners might be thinking, some listeners might be thinking, okay, that's cute to say, but what do I do when the rubber really meets the road? Well, you know what? This is something we get to ease into, and I know it's tough to do sometimes. So one of the ways that you can start, I if I can recommend, really, you can literally say, and it's not a lie, if you're worried about being dishonest, that doesn't agree with me.
Mhm.
So I'm opting for this because I have found that this doesn't agree with me. You don't have to say, oh, I'm trying to eat better, I'm trying to make better choices, I'm on a diet, I'm or this or that. You can leave it just like that. It doesn't agree with me. Oh, but I thought you loved pecan pie. It doesn't agree with me anymore. And you know what? When your mindset has shifted, when you've made that commitment to yourself, it doesn't agree with you.
Mm-mm. No, not at all. So much truth and wisdom in what you just shared, Rosada. And folks, if you're listening to this, we're talking about diet, particularly during the holiday season when I know
Yes,
this episode's going to come out. But what Rosada is talking about is actually broadly applicable to life in general.
absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
know, Rosada, you're a coach. I'm a coach. My wife Jen's a coach who I know you
Mhm.
know very well.
Yes, yes. We have so
We
much fun doing what we do together. It's so great. Superpowers combined.
I know that we're not alone in the phenomenon we see with the people we coach, where a lot of people look for coaching because they want that external source of accountability. But you
Mhm.
nailed it when you said that there is really no such thing as accountability without commitment. And
Correct.
that's the thing that nobody can provide for you. And
Right.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson, at least for a time, I don't know if it's still true. He was the number one followed male on Instagram.
Wow.
And
Wow.
his cheat meals were stuff of legend.
Epic. Epic.
Like I'm sure you've seen, right?
Yes,
Like
yes.
they go viral. It's like
Who can put
stacks
all
of
this down?
yeah, like stacks of pancakes the size of me, and I'm 6'2".
Right.
But what people miss is it's a cheat meal. It's not a cheat week. It's not
Right.
a cheat month. It's not a cheat year because
Right.
he has to have a lot of boundaries in place with other people and with himself to keep his body that big and that muscular
Yes, yes.
so
It
that
takes a lot of fuel.
so he can go get all these movie roles where he's a big hulking impossible guy, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And another story, very different human being, I think, in the celebrity space, but the rapper 50 Cent apparently
Yes.
doesn't actually drink alcohol.
Nope.
And he even says in interviews and in his books, like he'll go to the corner and get a Sprite with a lime in it to make it look like he's got a drink so people will leave
Mhm.
him alone. But
Yes.
which we can debate that, but the point is he's holding true to his boundaries because his vision of being functional and being always on his A game
True.
is bigger than the need for the party in the moment that he's
That's
attending.
right.
And so I'm hoping folks are listening to this and thinking to themselves, how can you still be in the fun, in the party without allowing it to be where the diet falls off, where
True.
the early morning routine falls off, or any of
Right.
the other things that you're trying hard to implement into your life?
Yes. When I think about, and I love that you mentioned those two, because another thing that we have to get, that we get to have a better understanding about, I'll say, is that these are people who have a very specific job. They're
Hmm.
responsible for a lot. They have influence. They are atypical. We look at celebrities and it feels like that we should be attaining unto a certain way of being. This is a very small segment of the population. This is a very atypical group of people. Okay.
Hmm.
And so they're inspiring, and we have to put it in perspective, right? So for me, but it can be, you can find some semblance of that. These are very strong and great examples of how we get to show up in our lives. When you talked about 50 Cent, for with the how he'll get Sprite and put a lime in it and all like that. See, the thing about it is he can do that, and so could we, if that's the choices we want to make as far as abstaining from alcohol and all like that. You get to do that, and you can do that in your own way, to whereas it doesn't you don't feel like you have to, again, broadcast it, or not everybody has to know. Again, if you're not at the place where, or you don't want to feel like you're on this soapbox, or that you want to negatively, or feel like you're affecting the group or bringing down the party or anything like that.
Hmm.
You get to show up the way that you need to for you, because though that party, that social event, that's only for a stitch in time.
Hmm.
And I liked how you talked about going on vacation, or you do things that during the holidays, or to throw your morning routine off. I always say your body doesn't know you're on vacation. Your body doesn't know that it's Saturday. Your body only
Hmm.
knows how you've been treating it and the choices you've been making up to this point. And it thrives in that consistency. And I'll tell you one more thing. What I've noticed in my experience is, if you're honoring your boundaries, if you made that commitment to yourself and you are acting in kind, the people around you, they'll respond. They'll
Hmm.
respond. I remember walking into a party, and here's the thing, even though I everybody knows what I do and all like that, I'm not the one that's going to go in and scrutinize what's on people's plates, or what's there, what's being served and all like that. I do what I do. I live my life. You come to me for help, and then we can have another conversation. Most of the time I'm going out, it's like, no, you don't we don't have to talk about what I do. Let's just it's somehow people will be like, so how you doing? I'm like, I'm doing great. It's been great, busy with the kids and all like that. And then it'll be like, I've just got to do better. And I'm like, I didn't say anything, but something in there said I have to tell her that I have to do better. I don't know if I just exude accountability. I don't know what it is. If it just emanates, I'm not sure. But I walked into a party, and the hostess was serving tacos. It was like a taco bar and all like that. And she had some appetizers and all like that. And so I walk in, and she made a beeline toward me, and she said, "RoseAda, I just want to let you know I made some turkey, some ground turkey. So, and I've got plenty, I've got veggies and dip, and I've got some, I and she really went out of her way to say, I've got options here for you." And I
Hmm.
never told her what it is that I would
Hmm.
prefer. She's seen me in action. People will respect. The universe will create a path. If you set that intention, if you decide that that's what you want to do, it'll happen. It truly will happen. And on the flip side of that, tomorrow I'm going to a Friendsgiving, and I can't walk in that house unless I show up with my garlic smashed red skin potatoes. I never leave, the pan is clean when I leave. When I leave with that pan, it's empty. And again, that's part of the balance of it all. Like, and I'm gonna eat some of those too, because that's but I also know I'm not eating smashed Redskins potatoes every day. Like, that's not something that I
Sure.
can, effectively tolerate. Again, it doesn't agree with me all the time, right?
Hmm. For sure. Yeah, no, no. I actually have like a dairy allergy. I'm not lactose intolerant. I
Hmm.
genuinely have an allergy where I will
Hmm.
go to sleep. Like if I were to crush
Wow.
a glass of milk right now,
Yes.
night night, like I will see
Wow.
you in a couple hours,
Okay.
just cuz it takes so much energy for my body to metabolize
Okay.
dairy, right?
Okay.
And so I go through a similar thing fairly often where we'll be going somewhere and the host or the hostess, if they know this about me, will
Yes.
either have, and I won't have said anything, but they will have either gone out of their way to provide a dairy-free option for me,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
or if they forgot, they'll be bending over backwards apologizing. And I
Yeah.
and I have never been able to figure out which one I find more awkward, but but I have begun to learn that instead of saying things like, "Oh, you shouldn't have," or like, "Oh, don't worry about it,"
Yes.
when they do come through and make that extra effort for me, just say thank you.
Just say thank you.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
because
That's a
that is
testament to Go ahead.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
because
Go
that
ahead.
because that because that's somebody seeing me for who I am and
Yes.
what my
S
needs actually are, and giving enough
Exactly.
of a damn to do something about it.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And embrace that because again, there are too many, we talked about it early on. Fresh hell awaits on the other side of that door. And it's going to challenge us with all the things that we say do not align with our goals. So when you are gifted with those instances where someone really is making an effort to support you, absolutely. You get to embrace that. You get to
Mhm.
acknowledge that. And really and truly, if you think about it, it's reciprocal. You're affirming them for seeing you. And that empowers
Yeah.
them and then it perpetuates itself. So that's what friends are for. That's what family's for. That's what love is. Yes.
So we've talked a lot about the mindset around food, around the discipline, around the commitment that it takes for holding ourselves accountable.
Yes.
How have you seen this, whether it's in yourself or in your clients? How has a commitment to this type of mindset manifested itself in other areas of their lives or your
Mhm.
life when this has been on point?
This is where it gets fun. This is where you get to see the beauty of empowerment and that motivation that perpetuates itself. This is one of the byproducts of the commitment that you made. So often I see, and this is the part where, and we're again, we're coaches. You have a certain person that you coach, anybody worth their salt, right, will tell you in marketing that if you're talking to everybody, you're talking to nobody. So we know
Yeah.
that we can't reach everybody. And I know that. I also know that I want to make an impact on the world. So how do both things get to be true? Well, the people that I serve, for the most part, I really 92% of them are 90, maybe 96, even something. I'll kick it up a little higher, are women who are running businesses and or running organizations, or that they're leaders in organizations. If they are in front of folks and they are delegating and they're leading and they're guiding, and I'm supporting them to create a better world of wellness on themselves, then that's going to create a ripple effect. And I
Yeah.
see it. I had a client one time, she tells me, "Okay, you know what? We are My experience working with you has had such an impact on me that I want to set up a wellness day with my staff." And we
Yeah.
did that. And guess what? As a result, somebody right under her, her volunteer coordinator, came to me for help. And now she's a part of my wellness membership. And then as a result, she's setting better boundaries for herself and she's making better choices and her family's making better choices. That ripple effect is happening. And who
Yeah.
knows who else is still kind of riding high from something that happened during that staff wellness day. These are it looks like one pebble, but look at the effect that it has had on so many others that I may never meet in my lifetime, but I know that that's how I've been able to reach.
Yeah. And I want to add this example too, because maybe not everybody has that set of circumstances, but I know this to be true about me. If I am finding myself particularly annoyed by our child, Tucker,
Yes.
it's
And they will do
probably
that.
yeah, oh yeah, he's a ball of energy like nonstop. He is
Yes.
in this phase where he is genuinely hilarious. Like
Yes.
I don't even know how to explain it, but it's constantly like in your face with how much energy he has.
Yes.
And when I am not taking care of myself, it's not funny, it's annoying, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that has nothing to do with him. That has
So true.
everything to do with me.
Yep.
And so I have fortunately had enough practice with this of being intentional, of
Yes.
paying attention to this type of thing to know that, wow, I'm finding Tucker really annoying right now. Have I been exercising? Have I been eating well? Oh, wait, I
Yes.
haven't worked
Check your
out.
energy.
I
Right.
haven't worked out in 3 or 4 days. That's probably a
Uh-oh.
me thing.
Right, right. You've got to that energy's got to go where it's used to going. And now you've you pent it up. It's like shaking a bottle of soda.
Yeah.
And you haven't there's nowhere for that carbonation to go, that energy to go, that expansion to
Yeah.
go. So it's being distributed inappropriately.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And so, for anybody listening to this, regardless of what type of leadership position you may find yourself in, even just how you relate to the people around you when you're on
Yes.
point with yourself,
Yes.
you're gonna relate better to other people.
That's
Just
absolutely true.
point blank.
That's actually the that's part of my origin story. That I can say that with confidence as to how I became a wellness strategy coach,
Hmm.
because I know that I was working before I stepped into entrepreneurship full time. I was working in leadership. I was running a kitchen in an apartment,
Hmm.
and I was working within zone of excellence, not
Yeah.
genius. Okay, that's a step before, and I was doing all the things. I was again. I'm pulling my weight. I'm bringing in income, benefits, all like that. I'm going to work. I'm being a good kitchen manager. I did wonderful things, made impact. All went to other sites within the organization to help their kitchens. All of that, and at home, because I was working the way that I was, because I was getting up early, not creating space for exercise, not nourishing myself well. Even though I'm running a kitchen, I come home cranky. I had
Yeah.
a garden, it died. Everybody, they're walking on eggshells because I'm coming in. They don't know what type of energy I'm going to walk in the door with. Sundays were the worst because Monday starts it over again. And so I affected my family. Now, mind you, this was after the culinary degree. This was after the nutrition degree. This was after the personal training certification. This was after I knew all the things. Didn't mean I did better by myself and making the right choices, but it came to a point, it all came to a head. That apex was sharp, where
Yeah.
I had to make a decision as to how I'm going to show up for myself better so that I can support my family and other and how I'm going to create a better life around my profession and what choices
Yeah.
I needed to make. That makes so much because our families are what family is the fabric of society and all like that. And that's true because how we show up with our loved ones and ones that are closest to us, that's going to impact how they move in their day and how they're supported. And if I'm not showing up as my best self, then gosh, who knows what kind of effect. And we're as parental units, again, as leaders in our houses, in our homes, we have responsibility to us first
Yeah.
so that we can we put the cart before the horse many times. Well, I'm doing all this for my family. To what end if
Yeah.
you're not taking care of yourself first so that you can regard your family?
Yeah. And I also really appreciate that you brought up all of the training and all of the skills that you had built and developed, because
Yes.
two things. I feel like many of us chase this idea that once I accomplish a certain thing, everything's going to
Yes.
get better,
Mm-hmm.
or if I just learn how to do the thing, things are going to be better. And in
Right.
reality, it's not about doing something so then I'll be something so then I can have something else. It's choosing to be the person that's going to be on point, on top of things, and then doing something about it.
Yes. That's it. That is it. You
Mhm.
get to, when you're choosing to be rather than to do, rather than to attain unto, everything else behind that is is target practice. That's what I say. It's
Yeah.
it's target practice after that. And you don't lose, you learn. We
Yep.
win, we celebrate, we grow together, right? And if we can take a moment, again, back to the beginning, that mindfulness piece, and remember why we do the thing, then we're going to see that growth take place. And it's going to be exponential without us even the less effort that we again, we stop trying to do so much and decide to be more. My
Hmm.
meditation this morning was today is a new day. I will be, and then
Hmm.
fill in the blank. Today is a new day. I will be compassionate towards myself. Today is a new
Yes.
day. I will be successful. Today is a new day. I will be empathetic.
Yes.
Yes. How about we be?
Yeah. And just to hammer this home and take it full circle again,
Mm-hmm.
for the folks listening to this, I know many of the listeners are people with big goals, big dreams, big aspirations.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to The Rock and 50 Cent, The Rock chooses to just have a cheat meal and
Right.
be on point the other 99.9% of the time because that's
Mm-hmm.
what it takes for him to be the biggest movie star in the world. And for
Yes.
50 Cent
Yes.
to
Ooh.
be one of the biggest media moguls in the country. And if you
Yes.
haven't looked up his business endeavors, folks,
That
definitely do that.
dossier is
It's
top tier.
it is incredible. He needs to not be a drunken partying disaster all the time. So
How about
he
that?
does not consume alcohol, even though he has his own line of vodkas and spirits, right? So,
Right.
whatever your goal is, if it is just to be a better parent, to be a better spouse, to be the best person you can be at work, like maybe take a moment to journal, to meditate on who would that person be in real time? And then
Yes.
once you're clear on that, what are the actions that person would take?
Absolutely. Ooh, I love that. This is conversation I can have all day. Oh my
Oh, I
goodness.
know. I know.
Yes, yes, yes.
just just out of curiosity, I want to make sure folks also are not getting it twisted. They're not confused that we're saying don't have goals. It's
That's
all
right.
about like beings. It's not some airy fairy stuff.
That's right.
Like, yes, we get to be the person that's going to go do the thing,
Mhm.
but you still get to have goals. You still get
That's
to
right.
have dreams that are kind of like the goal you're pointing your arrow towards. What's one or two of your goals currently, and how are you being the person that's going to achieve them?
Mm. So one of my goals, I've got quite a few, but the one that stands out for me the most right now is I've recently started to within the past year, I started a second business. It's a wellness retreat business. So I host wellness retreats a few times a year. And my goal is to support more women in leadership to nurture their minds and
Mhm.
bodies to be fit for the lives they want to live. So before you can train it, you may need to nurture it. That's Lift Unplugged. That's the name of the wellness retreat series,
Sure.
and or the wellness retreats period. And so my goal is to support more women in showing up for themselves more and knowing that, understanding that a retreat is not to be considered a luxury, but a necessity
Yeah.
that is part of your personal and professional development, that this supports you in being
Yep.
better for yourself so that you can be a better leader with mindfulness. That's where the airy fairy is not included in this, right?
Yep.
Because you get to support the goals with the work that you do. And so that is really and truly where that's my the goal that I've been looking at every day. And so you ask, well, what do I do in order to be that, in order to achieve that goal, in order to be in that space and be that supportive person? Well, I continue to stay mindful of the choices that I make so that I can have, I literally just said I started a second business that
Hmm.
requires a significant amount of energy, right?
Hmm.
And so that doesn't mean I'm going to sleep less. Sorry, I'm not
Nope.
grind till I die, late nights, early mornings. I need to take care of myself. That is a requirement. That's part of my job description is to take care of myself. So I'm going to continue to nourish myself. I'm also going to do things like step out, make more connections with these women that I seek to support, that I want to support. I want to continue to share my story. I'm going
Sure.
to write on the things that I know, doing inquiry work on the things that really talking to myself about what makes a good wellness retreat leader, what makes an excellent wellness retreat leader. I'm going
Yeah.
to continue to listen to what these women say they need for themselves and the spaces they need to be in. I'm going to continue to
Yeah.
regard them. Those are the things that I'm going to do in order to be the best wellness retreat leader that I can be in this industry.
I love that. And
Thank you.
as you continue to show up and be the person who is the leader in all those capacities, I know that you will.
Thank
And
you.
folks, I hope that you are taking notes on today's episode. And please, by all means, use RoseAda's example as one to propel you. Like, don't compare yourself. Don't, judge your current situation.
Right.
Please just use this as motivation to check in with yourself and
That's
see
right.
who you get to be so that you can get where you want to go. I do wish we had another hour plus for this
Man.
conversation, but I want to make sure folks know where to connect with you, where to continue the conversation offline. Where can folks interact with you, RoseAda?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm telling you, listen, I'm campaigning for a part two if you feel like we need it,
Yeah,
because
we'll have
we
you
know
on
what happens with
again
those
for
New Year's
sure.
resolutions. So if we need to circle back, I'm here for it. Okay. Uh, so you can find me across all platforms at RoseAda Marie. So that's RoseAD as in do a Marie Marie. So that's RoseAda Marie on Instagram. That's roseadamarie.com. If you go to my website and you join my newsletter community, you'll receive my free smoothie recipe ebook. It's fun for all ages. If you're into coffee, I've got a smoothie for that. If you're into fruit, if you're into chocolate, if you're into mint, I've got it all. So go get that, and please let me know what I can do to support you. And I'm here to really make that impact one one goal at a time.
Love it.
Yeah.
Folks, as always, we'll have all of RoseAda's contact info made readily available in the comments section in the show notes, wherever you are catching this episode. So please take the time to connect with her and continue on your health journey. RoseAda, final question that we ask everybody on the show: what are you acknowledging yourself for today?
Mm, I am acknowledging myself for, mm, that's good. Hold on. I am acknowledging myself for knowing that I make an impact and I get to continue to do so in the best, most positive, easiest, insightful, and purposeful way.
I love that. I love that.
Thank
RoseAda,
you.
I want to acknowledge you for coming on the show today. I think really having a very timely conversation for a lot of people and just taking it the extra layer that I think a lot of people get to hear, including myself. So thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for the gift today.
I want to say just really quickly, if we're having real talk, right? Like we were supposed to do this weeks and months ago, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, we
And
were.
it's just amazing how things work out
Yep.
because we are right in the place where this conversation gets to be, people need to hear these things right during this time where again we're stepping into a season where it gets rough fast. And
Yeah.
so I think there is a reason why things didn't happen the way we thought they ought to go. And we're right here, smack dab in the middle of the perfect season for this. So I'm so glad that this got to be the day and time that this happened. So thank you so much for
Yeah.
just riding the wave with me.
No, absolutely. There are no mistakes at all.
No, indeed. No, indeed.
Folks, we thank you for joining us this week. We'll catch you next week with another amazing guest or message. We'll see you then.